I'm Madison and welcome back to my channel. Today I have an age gap romance recommendation video for you. So I started reading age gap romances a little bit last year. I would say I've primarily been reading age gap romances this year in 2022, and so I have decided to compile a list of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of 6 age gap romances for you today that I have read that I would really like to recommend to you guys, especially because I am someone who used to think that I didn't like age gap romances, and then as I found ones that have worked for me, I'm like, okay, well, I want to like recommend them to you guys so that you guys, you know, maybe if you're a little bit hesitant to also read age gap romances, can like get a couple of recommendations from me. And yeah, okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to start with like the first age gap romance that I read that I considered to be like an age gap romance. This is a motorcycle club romance. King is the heir to the fallen MC, which is the main motorcycle club in Canada, and he is 18 years old. And then you have Cressida, Cress. She is, I think, 26 or 27, so there's almost a 10-year age gap between them. And she's not divorced, but she's in the process of being divorced from her husband, and she is like in this small town, and she gets a job as a teacher in it. One night she goes to the bar, she meets this really amazing guy, they date, they do the sexy sex, and then a couple weeks later, he turns up in her classroom and she's like, oh my god, he is my student, like we can't be together. And it is their romance. I devoured this book. It is one of my favorite books of all time, like hands down. I would always recommend this book. I thought I didn't like the idea of student-teacher romances. I was proven wrong. I thought I didn't like age gap romances. I was proven wrong. This one is so amazing. I love how devoted King was to Cressida. And that's one of the things that I found with age gaps where the woman is older, is that the guy is always so, like, he has like this puppy dog like devotion to the woman, and I always adore it. I love how much the male like always ends up like hyping the woman up, and like, you know, she's always someone who maybe doesn't have the best confidence in herself, and he's always there to like bolster her and be like, you are hot as shit, and I always live for that. So I love this book. I would highly recommend it. It's also the first book in the Fallen MC, so yeah. Kind of playing off that, the most recent age gap that I read that I absolutely adored, which is the reason why I wanted to make this video, is also one where the woman is older and the guy is younger. For some reason, I guess it just does it for me. That being said, I have dated younger guys before and it never works out. They're always way too immature, so these are just like freaking unicorns at this point. Anyway, we have The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloane. I tabbed the shit out of this book. This book, out of all the ones on this list, this has the best smut in it ever. If you want a really good, sexy, smutty book with like a solid amount of, like, it's got plot to it, but like there's still like a good, like it's pretty equal balance. Like the smut is like kind of teetering onto like overtaking the plot. Check out this book, especially if you're in a reading slump. Oh my god, I read this in one day. I devoured it. It was crazy. I was not expecting it. So in this one, the age gap is the woman is 42 years old and the guy is 24. Now Erica is 10 months from being separated from her husband. They just got divorced because he was cheating on her. Anyway, when this takes place, she is, you know, just trying to live her life, trying to like learn some self-love again, trying to like, you know, get herself back onto her feet. She like heads like a record label, and she is one day just sitting by her pool, topless, sunbathing, living her best life, when her pool boy shows up and has like a heart attack seeing her topless because she just got a boob job, so her titties are delicious. Anyway, he walks in, has a heart attack, she has a heart attack. He then goes into the pool house and he's a little bit hot and heavy because it turns out that Troy, her pool boy, has actually had a crush on her for the last 5 years. Now Troy is 24, he is also her best friend's son. So this is very much taboo because, oh my god, imagine like falling for a guy 20 years younger than you who was also your best friend's son. Bruh. I loved this so much. Their romance was amazing. And the entire time, Troy is like, you are so hot. Looking at you is like the hottest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. You are sexy. He is constantly complimenting her and I live for it. Like literally, this man, words of affirmation, 24/7. I live for it. Highly recommend this. Then we have one that I'm really excited to talk about. There is a 12-year age gap in this one. I don't fully remember what it is, but I think she's like 20 years old. And so I think he's like 32. But this is Broken Prince by R.G. Angel. This is a Beauty and the Beast inspired mafia romance. This is really unique. It's not like any other mafia romance I've read before because the guy in it is a recluse from society, has kind of cut himself off from the mafia when this begins because he is a scarred hero. He was in this massive car accident, lost his entire family in it, blames himself, became a recluse, stood away from the mafia, now lives in this gigantic estate. He keeps hiring, maids to come look after his place, but they keep quitting because he's an awful human being. He's just rude. He's a drunk alcoholic too. Drunk alcoholic is redundant, but regardless. You then have Cassie. Now, Cassie is 20 years old. She is the daughter of 2 renowned serial killers who have just been put away to prison, which is great for her, but also really bad for her because she has a younger brother who is under the age of 18 and she is unable to be his guardian because she doesn't have any money to her name. And so her younger brother is about to go into the foster care system, so she needs to get a job, but no one will hire her because she's the daughter of serial killers. However, Luca ends up hiring her to be the maid for his place. And so she ends up going there as a maid, makes a shit ton of money, and the two of them fall in love. And they actually fall in love via the intercom system first because he refuses to come see her. I will say I give this a 4.5 to 5 stars because he does spend the first quarter of this book drunk. And then he gets his shit together and it's great from there on out. So once you get past his alcoholism, it's all good. He does get over it. But, just a little hump in the beginning if you guys think it's a bit slow to start. It does pick up and I really loved it. Oh, and she's also a virgin heroine. Then we have The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This has, what's the age gap in this? She's 23 and he is 30 years old. This is the book 1 of the Dreamland Billionaires series, and if there was one way I had to explain this book, it would be Disneyland, but make it sexy and smutty. Okay, so to explain that, you have Rowan Kane, and him and his 3 brothers are the heirs to the Dreamland conglomerate, which is basically the equivalent to the Disney conglomerate. Their grandfather has just passed away, but in the will, each of the 3 brothers have to enact a task in order to inherit their portion of the will and inherit their portion of Dreamland. And Rowan has to become the creative director of Dreamland, of the theme park, for 6 months and make a change in order to get his part of the will. So he ends up going to Dreamland as a creative director, and when he does this, he ends up meeting Sara. And Sara, she works as part of one of the Princess Tea Party people, but then she ends up getting a promotion to work in the creative department. And that's where her and Rowan butt heads because she's totally sunshine. She sees all this positivity and all this hope for Dreamland, and Rowan is a total grump. He doesn't want to be there. It's their romance. It's super, super sweet. This book is such a feel-good book. If you were ever down in the dumps, just pick this book up because it will give you that instant boost of serotonin. It is so adorable. It made me laugh out loud, and the age gap was really sweet and easy in this. So yeah. Now for something a little more emotional, something that's probably gonna rip your heart out, throw it on the train tracks and run it over a couple of times before throwing it down a blender, we've got The Confidence of Wildflowers by Micalea Smeltzer. In this one, the age gap, the girl is 18 and the guy is 31 years old. This is book 1 in a duet, and they must be read together because this ends on an awful cliffhanger. So this is a small town romance. You have Thea and Salem. Salem is 18 years old. She's just graduated high school. She doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. She has a boyfriend. Her and her boyfriend really aren't going well. She doesn't really love him anymore, but they're best friends, so she doesn't want to break up with him. And then you have Thea Holmes, who's 31 years old. He has been divorced for a while now. He has a son, and he has just moved in next door to Salem. He owns his own landscaping business, so he's busy a lot of the days, and when his son comes to come visit him, on the off weeks from his wife, he needs a nanny to look after the child, and so he ends up asking Salem if she can nanny his kid. And that's how the two of them end up meeting, and they end up falling in love over the course of this book. This is hella freaking angsty. If you love angsty romances, especially the angst that comes sometimes from a taboo age gap, because there's 18 and 31 is a thing, then I would definitely recommend this. This does have a lot of trigger warnings in it, so please be aware of the triggers before you do go into this duet, because Salem, one of the big things is that she was sexually assaulted by her father as a child. Her father is dead. He's deceased. He's no longer with us, but she does still deal with a lot of that PTSD and trauma over the course of this book, and she does go to therapy and she does talk about that in this. There is also cancer and death of a loved one in this, and if death of a loved one is a trigger warning for you, if death of a loved one in any way is a trigger for you, please look at my Goodreads review for this book where I do have it as a spoiler. I went into it not knowing, and like, since death isn't like a trigger for me, I think it was like a really great like plot twist, but some people might be offended by it if it's a trigger. There's also cheating in this because she is with her boyfriend when they do first get together, but I mean, I was fine with the cheating. I know some people are like, it's a hard no, but I was fine with it. So, you know, it just depends on who you are as a person, but I highly recommend this series if you don't have any problems with the triggers, basically. And then last but not least, we have a book that I just finished reading, literally before I filmed this video, and that is Praise by Sara Cate. This age gap, she is, I think, 22 years old, and he is like in his 40s, so there's like an over 20-year age gap, and this is also taboo because it is ex-boyfriend's dad. I forgot almost what the trope was. I almost was gonna say something else and I don't know where I was going with that, but this is ex-boyfriend's dad. So you have Charlie and Emerson. Emerson is one of the 4 co-owners to the Salacious Players Club. It's not a BDSM club and it's not like a sex club. It's more of like, it's a kink club. So you can go in there and whatever your kinks are or your fetishes are, you can have them fulfilled by different people, whether that does mean sex or it doesn't mean sex, whether it is BDSM or it's not, you know, it can be whatever you want it to be. And then you have Charlie. She just broke up with her boyfriend a little bit ago. Her boyfriend was a dick and a half. He cheated on her, X, Y, and Z, end of story. She doesn't want anything to do with him. She needed to pick up a check from her ex-boyfriend, but it ended up going to the dad instead. So she goes to go pick up a check from the dad. The dad ends up offering her a job as his secretary, and the two of them end up falling in love as she works as his secretary, and it was delicious. The sexual tension was everywhere. Oh, what amazing sexual tension. And I was reading it and I was like, come on. Oh, because the entire time she's like, oh my God, this is my ex-boyfriend's dad. And he's like, oh my God, this is my son's ex-girlfriend. And so they're like, oh my God, no. But then they're like, but I'm so attracted to you and you're so amazing and X, Y, and Z. And what I liked about this one a lot is the fact that Charlie is discovering her kinks in this, and because like she's not very aware of what kinks are and like anything to do with the club, and so over the course of this book, like she's kind of learning different kinks and like what does and doesn't work for her, which I think was super helpful. Like, you know, I think there's not a lot of books that will take the time to really like walk through different kinks in this way, and so I thought it was really fun. So if you've also never really read anything too kinky before, do check it out. Those are my 6 age gap romance recommendations. Please let me know down below what some of your favorite age gap romances are, because I'm always in the hunt for new ones. And yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, please hit the like button down below if you want to see more of me. Let's go to my channel. And until next time, thanks a bunch everyone. Bye-bye.